Hello, my name is TJ Sorgenfry, and today I'll be talking about Bleeding Kansas. And the reason I want to share that I chose the Bleeding Kansas is because actually, on my mom's side of the family, one of my ancestors, like my great, however many greats, grandpas, is actually John Brown. And so when I heard the Bleeding Kansas was an option, I knew that he had a role to play in it. So I just kind of wanted to do some more research and it was personal for me. So that's part of the reason I did it. But anyway, so just a little bit about Bleeding Kansas. It was kind of a mini civil war that lasted about 7 years. And it was really just a bitter struggle between making Kansas either a slave state or a free state. And so it was just this, obviously it's called Bleeding Kansas, so there were some battles in there, and some times that people, really fought and were violent in their way of trying to either be pro-slavery or pro-abolishing slavery. But anyway, so when Kansas first became a state, when voting opened up for it, Missourians that were pro-slavery, they rushed the voting, and they flooded it, and they were really just trying to make Kansas a pro-slavery state. And it really was, and actually in the city of Lawrence, Kansas, kind of a refuge for abolitionists was created, and it was kind of a pact, and it was just kind of a movement to help Kansas become a free state. And so, like I said about John Brown, he actually did play a role in abolishing slavery and helping Kansas become a free state. So he arrived in Kansas because his 5 sons were actually doing their work to try to abolish slavery and kind of doing their job in Osawatomie, Kansas. And so he was with them for a little bit. And actually, in one of the books that I read about it, John Brown was definitely a contributor to making it Bleeding Kansas, because there were stories where he would go in the middle of the night to pro-slavery politicians or community leaders, and he would find out where they lived, and he would go knock on their door and just talk to them for a little bit. And I remember there was one specific story where the guy that answered his door, he had a wife and kids in his house. But John Brown, he pulled the husband out, the community leader and the political leader. Took him not even that far from his house, just far enough to where you couldn't hear anything. And then he, brutally murdered this man and mutilated him. And John Brown had, a certain, a signature mutilation of murder. And you can really see that's part of the reason it's called Bleeding Kansas, is because it's just the violence that took place, because he was just so passionate about making sure that Kansas was a free state. And then another event that was really important to the Bleeding Kansas was the sacking of Lawrence. And so, like I said, Lawrence was kind of a refuge for abolitionists. And so Lawrence was actually attacked, or you could say sacked, by 700 armed pro-slavery enthusiasts, and they even destroyed a Free State hotel. And so this just really created a big conflict. And, Senator Charles Sumner even gave a speech called The Crime Against Kansas. And there were just all these things, there are all these battles, including the Battle of Blackjack, the Battle of Franklin, the Battle of Fort Titus, the Battle of Osawatomie, which was led by John Brown, the Battle of Hickory Point. And so it was almost like this mini civil war that occurred in Kansas, all to say whether or not it was a free state or a slave state, because that was a big deal. And so eventually in 1861, anti-slavery settlers actually won the population race, and they voted Kansas as a free state, finally. And so Kansas did end up becoming a free state. And honestly, part of it was they got that to happen because people were afraid of people like John Brown, that if they allowed slavery to exist, or they allowed Kansas to be a slave state, then people like John Brown or any other violent abolitionists would break out and kill a bunch of people. So honestly, that was part of their concern, and that's part of the reason that Kansas was able to become a free state. But yeah, there were just a lot of really violent events that occurred, and it finally ended in 1861. Thank you.